Welcome, one and all, friends and foe, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Reverts. On today's podcast, we look at the controversy surrounding Joe Flacco reverting back to the practice squad. We look at how things may change for this Sunday's game with Trevor Lawrence getting hurt on Monday Night Football and his status unknown as of now. Plus, for the first time since going to Rivers, we are answering your questions. Last night I tweeted for fan questions. I said you could ask me about anything, and some people have asked some pretty interesting questions. That's all coming up on the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Rivers.
You're watching Adam the Bull on the Rivers Network.
So let's start with something that got everybody all worked up about yesterday. When Kevin Stefanski spoke following the Browns' latest loss, he mentioned that the quarterback one for this week has not been decided yet. Whether that's true or not, who knows? Kevin Stefanski plays everything close to the vest. That can be frustrating. I tell you, every time I hear Mike Tomlin in a press conference, it always makes you think, man, can't Kevin Stefanski be like that? But no, that's just not his nature, right? Kevin Stefanski doesn't give you anything. Mike Tomlin doesn't care. I mean, I understand Mike Tomlin's got way better job security than Kevin Stefanski does, but Mike Tomlin says pretty much whatever he wants, and it's not in a rude way. Like he never really acts like a jerk to the media. He's usually pretty nice, and he gives people answers, which you want. Not always, but most of the time. Kevin Stefanski does things his own way. It is what it is. But I take everything he says with a grain of salt. I think I'd be very surprised if he hasn't already decided that Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback for this week. But him reverting back to the practice squad, it's really not a big deal. Teams can't just grab him off the practice squad. If another team wanted to take him, he'd have to be okay with that. And obviously they have an agreement here. He can be elevated up to 3 times before you have to put him on the roster. So at this point, this is just some roster gymnastics at the moment. I don't even think it's about paying him less because they worked out a deal, whatever they worked out, and he's going to get paid that. Who knows the exact reason why they're waiting to put him full-time on the roster, but it doesn't matter. He's not going anywhere. Joe Flacco is staying here, and I would say is very likely to be the starting quarterback again this week. First of all, DTR, as of Tuesday morning, had not even cleared the concussion protocol. So he's been in concussion protocol at this point for 9 days. So who knows? Just because most players will be able to play the second week off a concussion, but it's not a short thing. We've seen Marquise Goodwin, Browns wide receiver, who's been out for over a month with a concussion. So I don't think anything's a guarantee. But even if DTR is cleared at this point, and we'll have our best idea of that by Wednesday, because the Browns will get back to practice for the first time in Berea in a couple of weeks. And we'll see by then. We should have a feel of whether DTR is cleared. But even if he is, I would suspect Joe Flacco would play. And I get it. Last week, I was saying I'm sticking with DTR, and I don't know. I still don't believe Joe Flacco's got that much left in the tank. He's shown over the past few years he's got a couple of games in him, and that's it. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point DTR is back to being the starting quarterback. However, clearly Joe Flacco played well enough last week and showed that veteran presence, leadership, his ability to play action pass. It's a skill right there. The ability to pull off that fake consistently, keep the defense held at least for a second. There was so much of that even with the terrible pick late in the game, obviously it makes a lot of sense to stick with Joe Flacco at quarterback. That's what they're going to do. As for who the opposing quarterback will be when the Jacksonville Jaguars come to Cleveland, well, that just got very interesting because in case you missed it last night, in the Monday Night Football game, a great game that saw the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Jaguars 34-31 in overtime. But the big story there from a Browns perspective is that late in this game, late in the fourth quarter, Trevor Lawrence got hurt. He hurt his ankle. Initially, it's been ruled as a sprained ankle, but he's going for an MRI today. Even if it's only sprained, the fact that it was so severe that he could barely walk, I'd be stunned if he plays this week. Now, crazier things have happened. We saw Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs last year leave a game with an injury and then come back, and then he played the next week against the Bengals, and he wasn't at his peak, but he played well enough for them to win. And so we'll see with Trevor Lawrence, but based on the initial reports and based on the way he left the field yesterday, I would be shocked if the Browns won. At the moment, at the Bet Rivers Sportsbook, the game is off the board because you don't know what the status of Lawrence is going to be. The Browns had opened as I think a 3.5 point dog. I can't remember now because it's off the board, so I can't see it. But I believe they opened as a 3.5 point dog in this game, and now that's certainly changed. As we head into week number 14, you look at the standings in the AFC. It's a little confusing right now because on ESPN.com it lists the Browns as the 6th seed, and at NFL.com it lists the Browns as the 7th seed. I'll double check the NFL one because I haven't double checked that one in the morning. But as of last night, it had still said the Browns were the 7th seed, which she doesn't. Yeah, they've got. I don't know. So the NFL has it as the Browns as the 7th seed. ESPN's listing them as the 6th seed. I'll go with the NFL on this. Even though the Browns beat the Colts because it's a 4-way tiebreaker, things get a little tricky. Either way, obviously the Browns are a playoff team right now, but things are really clogged up there. And I was going through my permutations yesterday. I was doing the schedule game, and we're going to talk about this more today on UCSS as well. But I do have the Browns still making the playoffs. And if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play, that's huge. I was leaning towards picking the Jaguars this week with Trevor Lawrence. It was a healthy Trevor Lawrence. I was probably going to pick the Jaguars this week. Without him, I'm leaning back towards the Browns. Now, C.J. Beathard, in the little bit he played for Trevor Lawrence last night, did okay, but he's not. I mean, he's not Trevor Lawrence. So that's going to make a big difference. I think the Browns will go from a 3.5 point dog to probably a pick 'em, maybe even the Browns a small favorite because the drop off is there. But things are, you got the Steelers at 7-5. They're without Kenny Pickett. We know the Browns' injury situation. Indianapolis is 7-5. But they're playing the Bengals next week, and obviously Jake Browning played extremely well last night. So it feels like the Bengals are not done at 6-6. Now they probably have to win out, and they probably won't do that. But the Bengals could be a pain in the neck for some teams if Jake Browning continues to play that well. And they've got, a lot of playoff contenders on their schedule. In fact, the Bengals only play playoff contenders, 4 in the AFC, the Colts, the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Browns, and they play the Vikings in the NFC. So the Bengals, who will not make the playoffs because of tiebreaker situations, unless they somehow win out, which I find very, very unlikely, could play a role, certainly a spoiler. Houston at 7-5. I think Houston, of all the teams right now that are 7-5 or 6-6, and there are 4 teams that are 7-5 and 3 teams that are 6-6. Even though right now Houston doesn't have the tiebreaker against Pittsburgh, Cleveland, or Indianapolis, I think the Texans are actually in the best spot because if you look at their schedule, their toughest game is the Browns probably, and that's at home for them. Then they go to the Colts the last week of the season. Their other 3 games they got 2 games with the Titans and 1 with the Jets. I mean, the Texans are in great shape to get to 10, and I think they're probably they have a chance to win out. They do. I'll be very surprised if they don't win at least 10. The Texans are going to the playoffs. I think the Browns are going, especially with the Trevor Lawrence injury. And I think that last spot is up for grabs. I think the Steelers are going to struggle, even though their schedule is not that tough. Denver and Cincinnati and Buffalo those teams all probably have to win out, or at least win 4, but they may have to win out, so it's going to be tough. The Colts may sneak in with the 7th spot. We'll see. It's going to be interesting, those last couple of spots in the AFC. Obviously, we're hoping to get more injury updates on the Browns tomorrow as well. If they could get Denzel Ward back this week, that would be massive. He's missed 2 games in a row. Hopefully Myles Garrett can progress. He was a non-factor as nothing a game as he's ever played. Obviously the injury and a factor there, but you're on the field. You got to perform. I've said this once. I'll say it a million times. I don't care who the player is. If you're on the field, you're expected to perform. There's no excuses. It's part of the equation. It's not an excuse. He's got to play better if he's on the field. If he can't play better than that, he shouldn't play. It's that simple. I love Myles Garrett. He's tough as nails, but if he can't help the team, he can't play. But they need him, and they need a healthy him, and they need him playing well, and they need Denzel Ward back. Offensively, we'll see what Cooper's status is on Wednesday. That's pretty big. And everybody else, we kind of know what their status is at this point. But we'll be looking really at Denzel Ward and Amari Cooper more than anybody else. All right. Last night, I tweeted and asked for everybody to send me questions. I said it could be about sports or it could be about anything. So I'm willing to answer every question, I think. I looked most of them over, unless a few have popped up this morning that I didn't get to see. So I'm going to go through the questions in order that I got them, and I'll try to give you my best possible answer. And I'll do it for a little bit, and if we run out of time or whatever, I'll answer as many as we can. Okay, here we go. Brownies tweets at Z_Clee Sports. What is your favorite and least favorite thing about having a dog? The only thing that's annoying about having a dog is having to walk him when it's 10 degrees out. That's really the only annoying. And when we're walking him and he sees another dog, he goes nuts. We're training him to work on that. It's gotten better, but that could be a pain in the neck. But the best thing about having a dog is just like kind of petting him and hugging the dog, cuddling with the dog. It's fun. It's part of the family. I love having a dog. Do you officiate weddings, and how much does it cost? I have officiated a wedding. I officiated my buddy Jonathan Peterlin's wedding from 92.3 The Fan. He and his wife Elise. I'm going to say that I killed it. Everybody said I killed it. I think I did a great job. I charged them nothing because they are friends. If somebody that I don't know wanted me to officiate a wedding, I am legally allowed to officiate weddings. I would consider it. I can't tell you on the air how much it would cost. I hadn't really even thought about that. I shouldn't say I've never thought about it. I have thought about it, but I hadn't really come up with an answer. So I guess it would depend on the individual and what you were looking for me to do at this wedding. I put a lot of time and effort into my speech for Jonathan and Elise's wedding. So it was a lot of work. Speaking of 92.3 The Fan, Tim tweets, did you have any bad blood with anyone at 92.3 The Fan? No names needed. Spicy question. That's from Tim Viscoulis. At Tim Viscoulis. Did I have any bad blood with anybody at 92.3 The Fan? I'm going to say no. You work with people. I worked with a lot of people there for a long time. We worked together for 12 years. Not 12 years, but 11 years. And you're going to have moments. I got the arguments with people here and there, but I would not say I had bad blood in the end with anybody there. There's people I'm closer with than others. There's guys that I'm friends with, some guys but I keep in touch at least on some level with almost everybody I worked with there, especially Dustin and Jonathan, more than anybody else. But no, I don't have any bad blood. I thought about it because I could. It's close with one or two people, but no. And by the way, not Ken Carmen. I know there's a lot of people think Ken and I had bad blood. We don't. We busted each other's what's all the time. We went at it. It was a healthy situation. And I respect Ken, and we don't have any bad blood. I'll tell you that because I'm sure a lot of people thought that would be somebody I would say. But it's not. The people I were thinking about that maybe, or it's not Ken. He wasn't one of the people I was thinking about. The Scarlet Witch of Sports asks, we will get to some sports questions in a minute, but the Scarlet Witch of Sports says, can you find me a date for Christmas in Chicago? I just want someone to go to the Christ Kindle Market with, maybe a pop-up bar. I'm sorry, Scarlet Witch. I don't know if you're looking for a man or a woman. I have no idea. I don't know many people in Chicago. All the people I know in Chicago are married, so I cannot help you there. I apologize. John tweets, John Turner, at John T187 827 says, what move do the Guardians make this winter? Give me your starting lineup and rotation for 2024. I don't want to do that, but I will. Let me tell you something. I am so frustrated. My man Zach Meisel of The Athletic put out an article yesterday talking about how, with the Guardians TV situation, we all know, we don't even know if they're going to get paid as part of their TV deal with the whole bankruptcy situation, that they're not going to raise the payroll at all. This is an absolute disgrace. It's a disgrace by Major League Baseball that we have this big a disparity in payroll. We've always had a disparity, but it's too big now. It's ridiculous. And if the Dolans cannot afford to have a higher payroll, any team that cannot afford a payroll of at least minimum of $125 million minimum should be forced to sell their team. The Dolans should be forced out in Cleveland. The only positive thing I have to say about them is they hire people, and they've hired good people, and they let them do their job. That's not enough. I'm sick of that. I'm sick of defending them for that. The Dolans suck. The family sucks. They're cheap. They're not spending again. I don't want to hear about these stupid TV contracts. Bring in some freaking players. So the lineup's going to be the same because they're not going to add anybody significantly. Zach already talked about it. They're not going to bring in Soler. They're not going to bring in Teoscar Hernandez. They're not going to bring in Gurriel. Those guys are all perfect fits for this team, but it's not going to happen. They're going to go cheap again. Wouldn't shock me if Miles freaking Straw's in the lineup again. They're going to have no power, and it's just really frustrating. So I think Ramon Laureano, who they basically picked up on waivers last year, is going to end up playing right field. They'll stick with Quan in left and Straw in center. Maybe if we get lucky, they'll move Quan to center and pick up a left fielder, but it's going to be a cheaper guy. I think Kyle Manzardo, who they got in the Aaron Savali trade, will he should start the season in the majors after the Arizona Fall League he had, as long as he has a decent spring. But maybe they'll be cheap and try to keep his clock from starting, and they'll start him in the minors. I can't. When it comes to spending any money, I don't trust him at all. But he will eventually be the first baseman. Naylor will DH. They'll have Jimenez at second. At shortstop, either Arias or Rocchio. Maybe they split time. I'm not impressed with either guy. They've done nothing. Obviously, Jose at third. And Bo Naylor, I'm excited about Bo Naylor at catcher. But I don't expect them to make any moves of significance. Nothing. They might. I don't think they're going to trade Bieber, even though there's rumors. But if they get a good enough offer, they might. They might even trade Clase. They signed Scott Barlow. He's been a closer in the past. Clase could get them a big return. I wouldn't be. They may use Clase to get that power hitting outfielder. I think that's possible. I can live with that if they think Scott Barlow can close, and they do have a good bullpen overall. And Clase wasn't as good last year. He wasn't. He had a lot of saves, but he blew a lot of saves because the Guardians were in a ton of close games. So I'm really frustrated by the whole organization. The owners stink. We have just terrible owners in this town. We really do. We're very the Dolans are a disgrace. The owners stink. It's really frustrating. So sorry. I wish I could give you something better than that, but there's nothing. I don't expect them to make any significant moves. I think that's the one thing they could do is trade Clase for that power hitter they need. All right, I got to go rapid fire. Meows at Meows 330s tweets favorite sports memory on air in Cleveland. One of my favorites more recently, one of my last month on the radio when Deshaun Watson got traded to the Browns, I was going bananas. Now 2 years later, I'm like, well, I'm not that excited anymore. On the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and I threw up on air. That was a funny moment. It didn't feel funny at the time. There's been some great arguments there. When LeBron came back, that was a funny moment. When the Cavs traded for Kevin Love, when the Browns traded for Odell Beckham Jr., when the Browns won their playoff game, the Cavs champion. There was so many great moments. Cavs championship, Guardians or Indians at the time in the World Series. Fourth, I can't even pronounce this name. Kevin Stefanski, what do you think about his situational awareness? Kevin Stefanski is a very good coach. His situational awareness is fine. Nobody's given me any stats in that range to back up that he's some terrible situationally unaware coach. Matthew O'Brien, regional food preference. Carolina barbecue, Italian beef sandwich, or seafood cioppino. I'm more of a Midwestern barbecue, so I'll rule that out. I would go with cioppino. I do love cioppino. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I don't know. I'm seeing some more tweets, but we're running out of time. All right, thanks to everybody for sending your questions. We'll do this again another time. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening. Please hit the subscribe button, and you'll get alerts whenever I'm putting out a new podcast. Thanks to Brian Monzo, as always, for producing. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you some very important news. Get extra value this football season with Bet Rivers Squares. Went up to $10,000 in bonus money. Bet $10 in same-game parlays on any game with the Squares icon to earn a square. That's it for me today. We'll see you next time in the bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. See ya. Bye.